Today we're going to talk about why you always feel like you're letting someone down as a high-performing analytical man. My name is Ege and I'm the founder of Data-Driven Actualization, where we help men who built a good life on paper also feel great and turn their minds into their biggest ally. Specifically in this video, I'm going to talk about the hidden rule that makes you feel like a failure at night, even when you're performing at a high level. Second, we're going to go into why better time management won't actually fix the feeling of letting people down or letting yourself down. Third, we're going to cover the overwork to numbing out cycle that's actually killing your output and why having your expectations might double your results. And I'll give you a 7-day reset you can start tonight, so you're not just learning intellectual information in this video, you also have something tangible you can test if you resonate with this. So the reason I decided to film this is one of the guys inside our data-driven actualization community said something that you might recognize. No matter how I spend my day, I feel like I'm disappointing someone. My coworkers, my fiancé, or myself. And let's get one thing very clear. This is someone who's performing at a high level in spite of everything that's happening in his life. For example, he's about to be a dad. He's about to move cities. He has a full-time job. He's building a board game app on the side in addition to that full-time job. And he has his own goals around sleep, fitness, and inner work. So in reality, this man is the poster child for a high performer. But in his mind and his body, every decision he made felt like a lose-lose. If he worked late night one time to push updates to his board game app, he felt like he was a bad partner because his partner was being ignored. If he showed up more at home and made more time to connect with his partner, he felt like he was a bad coworker. If he dropped a couple of his routines for a week or a couple of weeks to accommodate for what life was throwing at him, he felt like he was settling instead of living up to his full potential. So whatever he picked, right, his brain, or at least some part of his brain, would label it failure. So his real problem here wasn't having or not having enough hours in the day. It was the expectations that he was running in the background. He had set himself an unwinnable game. So when we were discussing this on the call, I asked him one question. With the expectations you have right now, is there any day you can actually hit all of them? And he thought about it for a moment and he said, actually, I don't think so. Not really. And this is the core pattern I see with a lot of analytical men. The thing is, and I used to do this myself, so I totally understand, right? It's like, oh yeah, other people cannot do this, but I'm going to live up to this incredible high standard I set for myself. So you secretly expect yourself to be an amazing partner, an elite performer at work, a serious founder or a creator on the side, perfectly on top of sleep, training, inner work, whatever you're interested in, right? And at the same time, you expect to be emotionally present for everyone around you every single day. And then you layer a story about this once-in-a-lifetime AI tech moment, especially nowadays with the tools that we have access to. So it feels irresponsible not to push yourself to your limits. And obviously you care deeply about the people around you, about building a legacy, about living up to your potential. So this whole thing of pushing yourself feels very noble. But the hidden rule that I must show up at my fullest potential with everything, to everyone, every single day, quietly sets you up for a game that you can only lose. There is no day where reality and that rule can actually match, right? So at the end of the day, your nervous system gets the same signal, and that signal is, we failed yet again. And the way this hidden rule affects your life is very tangible. When you run this rule long enough, you pay for it in cycles of going hard, going all in, going monk mode, and burning out. So you have a few days of just frantic overwork, boom, 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 creating something, right? And then you crash into a numbed out, what you call recharge, but it's actually just almost going into a vegetative state. And again, when I was building my business a few years ago, I was experiencing the same thing. So you just look at your Instagram feed, scroll, scroll, scroll. Maybe you go into video games, maybe you convince yourself you're learning from a podcast on YouTube, but you can't even retain the information. And in that time, you actually feel guilty for not doing more, so you overwork again to compensate, only feeding the cycle and not being able to break out of it. And ironically, what happens is you end up with less total useful work per week, worse presence for your partner, your family, and friends, and a body that constantly feels behind because you're always putting out fires. So the intention here is good, right? I don't want to waste my potential. I love that intention. I'm celebrating that with you, right? But the outcome in reality becomes I'm just too fried to use my potential Like, I don't have the energy. I'm pushing, 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 but is that actually taking me anywhere? So the solution is, instead of trying to double the amount of hours in a day, which to my knowledge we cannot do. If you think otherwise, please let me know. We need to change the rules that you're operating from, and that's what we did for this client, right? So here's the experiment I suggested to him. Cut your expectations by half and track your state and output. So for a few weeks, he ran a very simple experiment. He cut his daily expectations in half. He had fewer tasks to finish and fewer areas of focus every single day. And he tracked hours of real focused work. This doesn't involve multitasking, right? This doesn't involve staring at your email, staying busy, but not really getting anything done. And from 1 to 10 every single day, he rated how grounded versus fried he felt, right? So 10 grounded would be, wow, I felt amazing. 10 fried would be, oh my God, I just could not get through this day. And at first, his mind objected because the old stories were still there. His mind was saying, no, 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 you're falling behind. You have to push. You have to keep going. Come on, come on, come on. But when we looked at the data didn't agree. His total weekly focused hours actually went up. His recovery days stopped turning into a full shutdown. He was more present with his fiancée, and he had more capacity to make progress on his board game app. The only thing we changed was the rule that he was running underneath. The expectations he set on himself went from a moral truth, like, oh yeah, a good man should do these things, to a variable he could test to create the optimal state of life and the optimal output for himself. So here's the lessons from this video and the experiment he went through that you can take away. First, the chronic feeling of I'm disappointing everyone is usually not a time problem. It's an expectations problem. And it feels noble because it's built on care. It's built on the care that you have for your partner or your family, the care you have for your coworkers, for your team, for your work. You caring about reaching your full potential and the opportunity that's in front of you. However, the cost of this pattern is massive, right? When you put this pressure on yourself, it tortures your nervous system, makes you swing between overworking and numbing yourself out, and it quietly reduces both your output and how you show up in relationships. So, once you treat these expectations as something you can tune, not a fixed moral law, you can change your state first and then observe what that does to your weekly output and your presence. So, if you want to test this, here's a 7-day expectations reset you can run. For the next week, I want you to cut down your to-do list or your output targets by half on purpose. And each night, write down hours of real focused work. This doesn't involve multitasking. From 1 to 10, how grounded versus how fried you feel, and one sentence to reality check yourself. When I tell myself I failed, what exactly is happening? So, for example, if I tell myself, oh my God, I failed today, I didn't get everything I wanted to get done, but I look at my to-do list and I realize out of the 8 things, I did 7 of them. That's pretty decent progress. I was just one less thing from the things I wanted to do. That's amazing, right? At the end of the week of running this experiment, I want you to compare your results to a normal week, so you're not just doing things by belief, you're testing your outputs like a scientist. How much total work did you actually get done? And how did you feel in your body and your mind, right? So it's not about just increasing your output. If the output stayed the same, but you felt so much better, this was clearly a positive change. And how did you show up for the people that you care about? So we're integrating relationships as well. If this video helped you and you want more stuff like this, if you prefer step-by-step written guidelines or playbooks, you can go into the description below and download the 7-day data-driven calm protocol from there. If you prefer watching videos, consuming content like this, then I recommend checking out the video that I linked on the screen here, the RDT loop. This walks you through our daily process to rewire your belief system and to rewire your state so you can live life at your full potential without holding on to rules that create pressure. So you have this optimal balance between having high performance but also doing it from a place of peace. Hope you enjoyed this. I will see you in the next video.